So today's presenter is John Lee. He joined UUCC in 2017. He and his wife Mary were married in California, where both their daughters were born, but they spent most of their adult lives in Chevy Chase, Maryland. Is that near Baltimore or near Washington? They started their own consulting business that ran for over 30 years, which is impressive. John and Mary moved to Charlotte 8 years ago upon selling that business and retiring. Their daughter and her family live here, and they thought it would be prudent to be close to her. They joined UUCC shortly after they moved here. Were you other places? John has served on our finance committee, participated in the senior share group, and enjoyed many of the special events sponsored by the community. So we welcome John Lee.
We'll make this, don't worry. All right, so nice to see all of you today. I'm not a very spiritual person in my sense of myself. So this was kind of hard for me to think about. So the definition of spiritual is broadly refers to something related to the spirit, soul, or deep feelings and beliefs, particularly religious ones. So I'm good right up to the religious. I apologize for reading this, but I've gotten much better at forgetting than I am at remembering. Also, I find that sometimes I'm unexpectedly surprised by my emotions as I speak about these things, so pay no attention. It will pass. So this is my story in 3 acts. Youth, young, and adult, and old, because I think our story changes as we go through life. So my first act, youth. My family was active in the local church. My parents were in the choir, taught Sunday school, and served in church committees. I enjoyed the social aspects of the church, but I found the services tedious and unrelated to my interests. I saw no connection to my life in the biblical scriptures as they were presented to me. Sunday church services were boring, but there was family pressure to participate, and I did. My grandparents wrote me a letter when I went off to college, warning me of the fallacies of the Communist Party and the Unitarian Church. Obviously, I only paid attention to part of their warning. I found my spiritual roots in summer camp. I became a counselor at the local YMCA camp in the high Sierras of California at 16. There were 3 aspects to this experience that made it special. First was a feeling that we were responsible for what went on. There were 3 real adults in the camp: the nurse, the cook, and the camp director. All the rest of us were in our teens and early 20s and pretty much set the tone for the whole operation. Second, as a crass teenager who did not think much about duty, I was inspired by the very magnificence and grandeur of the setting. The camp was in the high Sierras with Yosemite to the south and Lake Tahoe to the north. Camping at night with the full moon shining off the granite and every star in the sky visible, with a coyote howling at the moon in the near distance, stopped me with its sheer beauty. I still find the mountains brings me to a place of reverence. Third was the ritual of being inducted into the RAG Society. Fundamentally, this requires a commitment to living a good YMCA life and is awarded in progression of increasing commitment. The RAG is nothing more than a cheap cotton handkerchief around my neck, but it represents my pledge. The progression is blue, silver, brown, gold, and red, purple, and finally white. I completed the red rag. The basic commitment is as follows. This is the creed you take as a 16-year-old. I will be true, for there are those who trust me. I will be pure, for there are those who care. I will be strong, for there is much to suffer. I will be brave, for there is much to dare. I will be a friend to all, the foe, the friendless. I will be giving and forget the gift. I will be humble, for I know that my weakness. I will look up, laugh, love, and lift. The red rag ceremony starts as: you are now leaving behind all frivolity. You have nothing to fear. The blindfold is only to keep out all distracting sights and allow you to concentrate on the ceremony. Pay close attention to all that is said to you, but speak only when you are spoken to. This takes place at a ceremonial grounds close to the camp. And the ceremony ended. I was given this final instruction. As you become a Red Ragger, you pass from a simple life of service to a life of dedication to leadership and sacrifice. With your acceptance of this new challenge, you place your life on the altar of dedication to those principles which have been made clear to you in the ceremony which you have just participated. I heard this instruction blindfolded, face down, with my arms extended, as if I was on a cross. The ritual, the time of my life, and the place combined and increased the power of this simple commitment has been important in guiding my life. As I look back on this experience, the instructions are naive and simplistic, but I think simplicity contributed to its power. The learning was not intellectual, but emotion, which sticks with me much more than the biblically sourced lessons of the church. Act 2, adulthood. I finished my master's degree in 1966, got married, and was hired to teach psychology at Laney Community College in Oakland, California. The time and place were extraordinary. It was the height of the rage against the Vietnam War. The civil rights agenda was changing from the nonviolent solutions of Martin Luther King, the more militant approach of Malcolm X, and the increasing insistence that women have equal access to jobs and status was a fierce argument. A community college in Oakland was at the epicenter of these vectors of change. Black Panthers were not an abstraction, but were students in my class. The press did not yet know how to talk about the hippie revolution as it was defining itself in my community. The question of what makes a good society seemed unresolved and up for debate. Our nation was shaken in 1968 when Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy were assassinated. Malcolm X had been killed in 1965. The local trauma was amplified when Bobby Seale of the Black Panthers was shot in 1967 by the Oakland police. In October 1967, there were violent protests in Oakland aimed at shutting down the local military induction center in opposition to the Vietnam War. The Symbionese Liberation Army killed the Oakland superintendent of schools just down the street from my office in 1973. At this time, Oakland had an emerging Black leadership and a fading white power structure. The new solutions were being developed to fit the new circumstances. Grappling with these questions in an untethered time forced me to think about the authenticity of my values and how I express them. It's difficult to be the only white face in a room discussing critical questions of how oppression works in everyday life. It's not a place or time where rehearsed and intellectual solutions from a white mouth seemed appropriate. Every day, I had to stand in front of my class while traumatizing events were happening just outside the door and be able to present some meaningful consideration to these living problems in addition to the 15 chapters in the psychology textbook. Sometimes I failed. What do you do when a Black student will not speak to you because in his eyes, you are one of the oppressors? What do you say when a student earnestly proposes that violence is the only way to achieve meaningful social change? How do you understand a Black student who wears a swastika around his neck? These failures and confusion still command my attention as I wrestled with the concept of what makes a good society and my role in it. Out of these struggles, I formed a more durable and nuanced sense of the world. Social justice is difficult to achieve in a changing world, given the personalities, events, and leadership of the time. Good guys are not always good, and bad guys are not always bad. The issues shift and change as the answers morph and evolve. Even so, I still use those early experiences to try to understand the confusing challenges we face today. The moral center remains constant even as the world around me changes. I believe my early adult experiences provided me a foundation which I continue to use to untangle the questions of justice, oppression, and hope. My experiences made my understanding of social injustice much more personal, as I could see the hurt in individual lives and not just abstract social wrongs. In the second part of my career, I was a consultant committed to improving post-secondary education. My focus changed from the immediate experience of my students and community to more systemic questions of organizational fairness and equity in a national level. Education is a gateway to future success, but it's also a barrier for so many. The core of my work was an attempt to improve institutional strategies that help students who face barriers to attainment in college. Colleges are organized around inherited models of operation, which often do not prioritize the needs of students. A lot of my life was spent trying to generate policies and practices that open the pathways for the least well-served. It's not always a matter of personal commitment to equity or diversity, but often it is a structural operation of our institutions that are the invisible barriers to equity. These two very different life experiences, teaching and analyzing, bookend my understanding of social justice and the potential for equity. The answers are not simple nor general. It requires continuing effort on both fronts to help us learn, lean into a better place. My third act is being old. I left the Washington, D.C. area and moved to Charlotte upon retirement. My wife and I moved here mainly to be close to my daughter Paige and her family, but we knew no one else in Charlotte. Joining a church seemed to be a reasonable way to find a place we fit in. My wife and I had not been active in any church in our adult life, but we found a home at UUCC, which has resulted in a circle of friends, activities, and a sense of belonging that has made Charlotte feel much more like home. I was 76 when we moved here. Being old is a complicated business, which in my case was made more difficult by my stroke 4 years ago. I wish I could only use one hand, it's so hard. Say that my stroke made me more spiritual and I developed an understanding of the divine, but that didn't happen. At first I was just confusion followed by depression and resentment, and finally acceptance. I've lost the use of my right arm and leg, so I can't do simple things like cooking, cleaning, or shopping. This has been a loss not only to me, but especially to my wife. I cannot drive, struggle to take a walk in the park, and I cannot take a bike ride around the neighborhood. I did not realize how the small activities of my day brought satisfaction and meaning until I lost them. The result is that I must reconsider what is valuable in my life today. I don't think I have any easy answers for this problem, but it does compel me to think about the spiritual core and meaning of my life. As somebody put it, I'm at the end of the semester and I'm studying for my finals. I think my answers are common. I would like it that my insights were profound and not a greeting card slogan, but it's too late to be embarrassed. Retirement is, I think, is a blank canvas, and I had to decide what I was going to paint. It's a daunting responsibility and not sure how well I've done. When the motivation of necessity for making a living and raising a family went away, I was forced to decide what was valuable. I, like most of us, depend on those beliefs and commitments that guided me through my life. Any wisdom I have comes from a lot of failure and a few successes. Things I said or did in error and things not done or never said that should have been still haunt me. I hope that my resolve to do better has helped me be a kinder, more thoughtful person. As I've gotten older, owning things has become less important and relationships have become more essential. Now that I can afford things, I desire them much less. As my world has gotten smaller, the people in it have become more important. I'm struck by how kind people are. As I walk more slowly through life, doors automatically open. People step aside and ask me if I need help. so sweet. I miss people lost and have more appreciation for history, both my family and beyond. I wish I had read the Bible, but I haven't and probably won't. There are lots of places I'd like to visit, but it's possibly too late. My appreciation of art has improved because instead of just wandering through the museums, I now sit and look at the piece of art for an extended period of time because I'm a little too tired to keep walking. It's surprising how much more meaningful the work is when you give it time. I've developed a deeper appreciation of my experiences, and I treasure those memories. I try to be more fully in the moment and welcome the small beauties and kindnesses that come my way. I hold my friends and family closer. My enjoyment of life is not diminished by my limitations. Thank you.
We actually do have a couple of minutes for some questions. Would you like to sit while you answer?
No, good.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah.
I have a
Yes,
question.
great.
John, I know you're very involved with the League of Women Voters, right?
Yes.
Yes. Can you talk a little bit about what brought you to that? I know it's, and how it connects with your union.
It's all Tom's fault. He got me into the league and, but it suited me. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit and it's not Republican or Democratic. And so we're trying to improve voting and the access to voting and all the things that go with it, including things like education. And I found that it was a nice place to be active. It suited my age group. It tends to run older and so I like that. And I get to hang out with a bunch of older women, which is okay.
Yes, Karen.
Have you done much writing, John, or do you plan to do
Writing.
writing? Yes, for your progeny or others?
Yeah, I'm taking a class right now in how to write your memoirs and I'm gonna cage some of what I did today for that class, which meets tomorrow. But that is what I find difficult is I want to put those stories out in front like a sociology class. But when you want to write in a more active voice and a more present voice, so trying to make that transition for me is hard. I wrote policy things, so that's nice because you put that thing out there. But like I said, when I get close to those emotional things, different. Yeah.
So are you dictating your memoir?
I do.
Or are
Yeah.
you left-handed?
Oh, no. No, I've lost the good hand
Okay.
and the left hand remains stupid. Learn.
Well, still, give yourself a pat on the back.
But the dictation on the computer, it makes it all possible for me to even come
Good.
close.
Where is this class? How are you taking this, the class that you said starts tomorrow?
No, it's actually tomorrow's the last one. It's 2 hours a week. It just meets a couple of hours.
Online?
No, it's the
Adventures in Learning,
Adventures in Learning. Yeah, we both do
Shepherd
that
Center.
at the which in case any of you are interested, it's been it's a very nice option, Adventures in Learning and
Shepherd son.
Yeah, it's a Shepherd Center.
the Shepherd Center, and they do nice programming. It's aimed at older people. Most of you qualify.
I'm right here.
Snap.
I'm right here.
Maybe I don't see anything on Zoom.
No.
No. Is there one more? Yes.
Have you had the opportunity to participate in any of our leadership teams here and share some of your experience with us that way?
I was on the finance team, but the funny thing is, once you have a stroke and you walk funny and look like you might fall over at any time, people think you're not so smart. There tends to be a washover in that. And second, I can't drive, so that limits my ways to participate. So every time I do something at this church, it's $20 to lift. And which is okay, when you work out the cost of a car versus the
Yeah,
cost of lift, it works out, it's not bad. But it still gives you pause when you say, is that worth $20 to me to go
Yeah.
into that meeting? And as much as I love meetings, sometimes you say no.
All right, well, thank you so much. Find it really revelatory and really kind of, I almost want to like go back and read the text again. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot in it that was
So
really.
I asked whether I should tell my joke. And
Oh, yes.
two Jehovah Witness married a Unitarian. They raised these kids who went around and knocked on doors for no apparent reason.
Yeah. Yes, I heard that.